treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Bryn and Cody. How's it going, guys?
So good. I have never been this excited about the treasure hunt. I am thrilled at the treasure hunt right now.
You're putting some pieces together. I know I got like 100 texts from you and Zach, a little bit from Cody, and it was a little overwhelming to me. So I do need to go back and read through all of them. So I'm a bit behind, I would say, in terms of what you're working on right now. You want to say
Well,
what
that's
you're
fine
working
because
on?
I'm
Or
going to talk through it during Discord Detectives. So I'll get you up to speed and I'll get the listeners up to speed. I mean, it's simple. It's so simple, but it works and it's so simple. And so I think that's why I'm so excited. Um,
excellent.
so yeah, we'll save it for Discord Detectives. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk it through.
Cool. Cody, have you been following the texts or having conversations with Bryn?
I did. I did read all the texts, and I want my kudos for doing it because a lot of times they slip through the cracks on my.
Cody, big
Slip through
props.
the cracks, please.
Big props for reading the texts.
There were a lot. I think I walked away for like 30 minutes, and there were 41 new messages. No, but I read through them all primarily because Bryn was talking about it before sending all the messages to me, and I was also getting pretty excited. So yeah, I endorse a lot of what she's going to talk about, and I'm also excited about it. I do worry sometimes that we get like really good, solid foundational ideas, and then we like start to pull on little threads, and then when we discuss it, we kind of talk about it all at once, and some of the thread stuff that's not as concrete dilutes like the main point a little bit, but the main point is like I really like it. I really like it. So I'm excited to hear Bryn talk about that later in the episode. But other than that, no, super productive weekend. It was very, very hot out for like the first time this year. And we spent a lot of time outside and got a lot of yard work done. And I need to drink more water.
This is your PSA for drinking water, folks.
All right. Other housekeeping, make sure you update your notes in the shared Google Doc, Cody, for the chapters. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, we're when we were talking in the car the other day, Cody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to go back through and make my notes about things." I'm like, "What about all this time I've been telling you to put your notes that we've already made?" And it's been such a helpful document as I like get new thoughts. I can like search my own notes and just have them all in one spot. Anyways, yes. Everyone, all listeners, you should be keeping all of your notes in a very searchable place because it makes your life so much easier.
And if you don't, your friends and family will tell you to do it in person a bunch of times and then just call you out online in front of everybody for not updating it.
It's called public shaming.
Nice.
All right. We dive into a what's more likely or two.
What's more likely?
I'm not sure who has the first what's more likely. Is that you or Cody?
That one's me.
Okay.
It's me. So this was part of a car discussion that Cody and I had the other day because I feel like our team as a whole has been very much in the camp of like part one, part two differentiation. Um, I think, well, maybe this is what I want to discuss. I feel like we're all in the camp of everything that you're going to need for a part two box. All the clues will be in the part two chapter. I think we're all on the same page there. And I think we were all on the same page, at least for a while, that we thought, well, I don't know, that maybe I was under the impression that all of part one would be clues anywhere in the book, like maybe exclusive of the part two box chapters. I'm kind of starting to think that when he tells us you can find clues for the lion's share anywhere in the book, there's a world where there are lion's share clues in the part two boxes. which I think a lot of people currently believe. I don't think I believed that before, and I'm being very much swayed in that direction, I will say. And so I want to hear your guys' thought at this point in time. What's more likely, or what percentage do you feel like is the likelihood that there are lion share clues in part two?
Cody.
Yeah, I can go first. It's tough because I kind of differentiate it in a different way. So I would say, if that is like the question I have to answer is there any lion share clue in a part two? 60-70% chance that there's something in there. I don't think it's like a
That's more 65.
perfect. I don't personally believe it's a hard and fast rule the same way that like there is no part two clues in part one is in my mind. My caveat, my little adder, uh, onto that thought is I don't think if you said like, will there be any clues of significance or like major clues, majorly significant in part two for part one, then I'd be very low. I'd be like 10% chance or lower. I don't think there's going to be anything that's like a major foundational, very important clue for part one in part two. I think it's the kind of thing where if there's something in part two, you just threw a couple little, I know we've got a million different names for them, but you know, a couple little pointers for something you should be looking at in part one, maybe if it happened to work out that way. But I think that would definitely be like a tacked on the end kind of thing and not like part of his primary clues or like the really important clues. That is my feeling on it.
All right. I think I'm exactly as you described, Bryn, in that previously I wasn't really a big fan of having lion share clues in part two, but am now being swayed. And by swayed, I mean, I think I've seen a few things that look a little suspect in part two that might be clues for lion share. So I'm slightly more confident in that than Cody. I would say I'll put myself at 73. And I would be against Cody's comment about the clues in part two being just minor things. I think there's a possibility that there could be significant clues in part two. Bryn.
You guys are much higher than I expected, and I'm excited about this. So I would say I'm probably up closer to, I'm gonna go 80 at this point. So, and just like as an example, I mean, we start out chapter one with him saying his 3.5-year-old son, which surely is a clue in one way or another, right? Like, I don't think you're just saying 3.5 years old. Just the other day, my 3.5-year-old son asked me if we could play together. And then when you compare that to the Pokemon box chapter of being 5.5 years old, it's like, I just feel like those have to be kind of hinting at the same thing, right? Like, I don't think one can be a clue independent of the other in my mind, like as I'm justifying my 80% to myself. And I also feel like with the lion's share recently, I'm really getting, and I'm gonna get into this with Discord Detectives, the idea of there being this really big importance on like middle and half throughout the book. And originally I was like so set on that in the Pokemon box. So then I'm like, well, I don't think these can be like two significant things independent of each other within lion sharing and within Pokemon. So maybe I'm feeling pretty strong that a lot of these things that maybe I'm picking up on in Pokemon boxes, an example, really are clues for lion share. And I will say, the first thing that kind of turned me in this direction was at TreasureCon when someone asked about the Froakie image in the Pokemon box chapter. Like something I think they asked about like the symbolism of the hands that Froki was making, or something, the shape on the belly, something along those lines. And Jon was like, there's no clues for that in the Pokemon box. And so it's like, how do you create that image in a treasure hunt book and not either think I'm going to put clues in this, or you just have to, at some point you would have to like eliminate those aspects of the Froki to just create a frog, to eliminate the confusion there. But the Froki is doing these specific hand things. It's like that has to be a direction that
Hand
he
theme.
made. Yeah, he had to have like created that, right? And so if it's not for the Pokemon box, is it then a clue for the lion? Sure. So there's just like all these things that keep coming up that make me think, he says you can use the whole book. So maybe I need to start taking that literally and include the part 2 chapters in a whole lion share solve, which I'm sure some people are yelling like, yes, we've been doing this the whole time. I'm sure there's other people that also still feel strongly the other way. I had something I was going to say in conclusion, and now I cannot remember. But I was going to say my thoughts that I'm trending this direction strongly have actually like really turned me off of the Pokemon box, I would say. Because if I do believe this, then I think it's really frustrating and challenging to not be able to differentiate what is truly a lion share clue and what would be specific to a Pokemon box clue, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back a little bit and say with Cody's thought about whether or not there's significant clues. I don't think there's going to be a bunch of clues in the part 2, maybe one per chapter. So I don't think that's as frustrating to me to try to differentiate between the two, if there are any in there.
I have a few more comments that I wrote down when you two were talking.
Okay.
First is, I would like my slider to reflect my second point instead, because I feel like the sliders are making me look like I'm way more on board with a lot of the stuff you're saying than I am. So
okay.
You said 60 to 70.
I said 60 to 70 that there could be a clue for part 1 and part 2, but I want it to now reflect if the question was like a significant clue, like an important clue to the solve. Because the graphics making it look like I'm endorsing this way more than I am.
The asterisks are flying.
They are. The asterisks are flying. You did mention that you feel like a lot of people are going to be yelling at their screen that this is already what they're doing, and a lot of people might feel the opposite. I just wanted to say I feel like that is like one of my favorite reasons why we do this what's more likely thing, because a lot of the time it seems like so obvious to one of us, and it's like a big surprise that we actually disagree. And I feel like there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the community, and like options for those kind of questions where like everyone thinks they're on the same page. And it's really enlightening to learn that like some of these assumptions that we thought we were all making we actually have like different opinions on. So actually, even though it's one that I think a lot of people are probably already like firmly rooted on one of the two camps, I think it's still very worth talking about and kind of arguing both sides. Another thing I wrote down as you guys are talking, I feel like a lot of what you guys are saying comes off very confirmation biasy. Like, oh, I found some stuff in part 2 that I really like for part 1. So now maybe I'm going to change my mind and decide, even though before I didn't think that they could be overlapping, now because it fits something I'm looking for, now it does. So just a reminder to keep an eye out for confirmation bias.
All right. Thank you, Jon. I mean, Cody.
You know? And then the last thing I was going to say is, does it change your opinion at all if I remind you that when you buy the lion's share as an ebook, you don't get any of the part 2 chapters? It seems like if there were clues of significance in part 2 and he already like has it as an ebook, obviously he wouldn't have broken it up. He would have broken up the part 2s when you buy the part 2s, but he may not have. But he probably would have included the part 2s with part 1 and not enabled you to buy just part 1.
Good point. Very good point.
I'm not as swayed as Blake. I'm not going to move my slider down for that, just because I don't think there's going to be anything that you find in a part 2 box that's like you would only get that information from a part 2 box, not the lion's share. Like the stuff that I'm finding, I guess, feels like it's in addition. It's provided to us in addition in the part 2 section.
Well, I feel like that's what I was that's what I was saying though, right? That's what I meant by like clues of significance. It's like the origin of the clue and the meat of the clue is going to be in part 1. And if there's a couple little calls to it in part 2, I'm on board with that. So
yeah.
Now
so
it
can we
seems like
slide you back up from 10%?
I think you need to slide you guys down or rephrase the question.
Okay, well, my fault for not having clear parameters on the what's more likely question, but I do think it was an excellent discussion.
You did. That was a good discussion. You know, it's a good discussion when Blake's slider's going all over the place.
I landed at 60%. You know, I'm not as swayed by the ebook argument as much as I probably should be. You know, there's not like the introduction, which we're going to be covering today, the introduction for the main book. You know, that has information about the part 2 boxes as well. That would be helpful for somebody buying the ebook. And that wasn't included in the part 2 individual ebooks. So I'm not as set on what is included and what is not included in the part 2 box ebooks as being an argument as maybe I should be, but that's all. All right. Another what's more likely, Cody.
Yeah, I got another one for you. All right, I'm going to preface it with a quote that I've said many times before. Classic Cody repeating quotes. But I did actually pull up the source because I had totally forgotten where it came from at this point because it was from back in 2024. An article published the 12th of December 2024 in The Independent, where they quote Jon as saying, "We're in a digital world, and what I've put together is an analog adventure." He says of his new book, "There's treasure inside. All you need is a book, some water, and some shoes." So one that I've quoted many times, but I went back and pulled it, and it's back in 2024, which feels like a long time ago at this point. But I also feel like Jon's had lots of opportunities in interviews if he felt the need to like clarify that in some way, that he had those opportunities to do that. And I haven't really heard anything that's like very clearly backpedaling on that. So with that in mind, in the, I believe it came from the introduction. That's how I came up with this. What's more likely? JCB says, and yes, some of the clues to finding the largest treasure boxes are found within the histories of these treasure items themselves. So what's more likely? That when Jon is talking about clues being in the histories of the treasure items themselves, that is a reference to you needing to go research the history of the items themselves, or that he's talking about the histories of the items that he's already provided in this book?
So let's phrase the question. Are the histories of the items that may contain clues part of what Jon has written already in the book? So is that more likely, Bryn, or less likely?
When I read that, I had the same ideas as you, Cody, but I think I'm going to ultimately land on his intention is for that to be like 90 of that. What he is referencing there is the histories and the stories that he is already providing to us in the book. And I think it's kind of just like more of a introduction to the concept of how he has constructed this treasure hunt within this book that he has created.
Yeah, I'm not so confident. And it's only because the caveat that he put in the book about if you were to do some additional research or find more information about the, let's say, the magnifying glass, the Rukasale pattern, gold Rukasale, that might have been his exact intention to have you do more research. So that's my counterpoint. I'm leaning towards maybe just very slightly more likely that all the information that you need is in the book, but not strongly. You
can put me right at 50-50 because I'm just like, the reason I made it a what's more likely is to get the two of you get your input, because I'm like so crossed up on what he meant by that.
Right.
Because I've seen theories where people just go so deep into histories of things, and it's like that feels, in a lot of cases, it feels like that couldn't have been his intention to go like so deep into the minutia of something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd definitely be on board with like, oh, it's, in the first few paragraphs of, the Wikipedia article on this item of treasure,
Right.
or something similar to that. Definitely more on board with that than something that's like, way, way, way in the weeds. But yeah, I can also see how he could be referencing. It could be a way of him saying like, hey, you're going to see my own little anecdotal stories and then facts about the treasure, and don't discount the facts as not part of the treasure hunt. Like there's clues in there too. So yeah, I was real crossed up about that one. And now I'll be right at 50-50.
Yeah. I mean, just take it, Anvari's ring, for example. You've done a pretty fair amount of research on that outside of the book. And
for sure,
because he pointed you in that direction, right? So what do we make of that? Yeah, I can see how you're at 50-50. It's a very difficult question. Right. Very good. We
love using the sliders.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. R squared. All right. We dive into horseshoes and hand grenades. Right. We have more St. Louis. Is that you, Cody?
It's me. Yeah. Disclaimer right off the top. I did not have as much time as I wanted to put this together. I always like having like all sorts of pictures and stuff. But I'm going to try and just describe this one, and I'm going to kind of clunk my way through it because I haven't even really organized all my thoughts yet, but I'm excited to talk about it with you too. So I started with, a couple of episodes ago, I talked about how I'm like really endorsing the idea of the 90 degrees, minus 90 on the Mississippi being kind of two halves of the United States geographically. Symbolism of the butterfly kind of like with the center axis and then the two different sides, all of that stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm clinging to at this point, and trying to like now pull threads as though that's true. And that's like the assumption I'm making. So I tried to think like, what other thing that I feel really strongly about that's not covered like in that thing I just described, that I can like add on as a layer or see if they're like intertwined in some way. And I was thinking about roads and roadways, because that's another thing I really like, and I feel like is likely to be kind of the basis of a clue in some way from some of the different quotes we've seen, especially, chapter 1, lots of roadmap stuff. And then just talking about like humanity's roads, common roads humanity shares that we walk down, a lot of similar quotes to that. So I was skimming around on Google Maps and I was pulling up different roadways. And the first thing I did is do some research into like the different kind of roadways. So it breaks up into like at the highest level, interstate highways, and then US highways, and then state highways and state routes. And I was thinking, in my mind, if he's using roadways, it's probably gonna be like a more major roadway thing. And it's probably going to be consistent on like the type of roadway would be my guess. So I kind of narrowed in on like interstate highways that felt the most likely to me. And I came up with something interesting as I was researching about them that jumped out to me and happened to point me right back to a place that I've already looked at least twice now, looking into like other things completely. And it's just so weird when you come back to the exact same spot and you're like, really, this again? Like, what are the odds? And of course, it's a St. Louis thing. But what I found was that I-64 and I-55 share the same bridge over the Mississippi River, right there in St. Louis, which is a pretty rare thing in general, and for it to be crossing the Mississippi felt really rare. And it very much reminded me of like our common roads and connections and the quote, it builds bridges. These are all quotes from the book that I wanted to pull out and just ran out of time to do. But it felt like very, very in line with a lot of those different quotes to be like paths merging, paths intertwining, roadways, bridges, all of that stuff. So I was really excited about that. And then I found a couple other things in that same area again. That also just like I don't think it's there, but it's just there's some real coincidences. So there is the Eads Bridge, which is right next to this bridge where the two highways cross, two interstate highways share the same bridge. And the Eads Bridge, I can't remember if we talked about this before. Like I have like a vague recollection of it, but they built the bridge. It's like recognized as one of the first steel bridges. It spanned the Mississippi. It was like this big connection between East and West. And the way that they tested it before they crossed it with vehicles is they had elephants cross it. We did talk about that, right?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
You did.
Yeah. So that's that same bridge is also right there. It's also that arch. Oh, I should know the name of it by now. I've looked at it a million times, but the
St. Louis Arch.
St. Louis Arch.
I think that's just the name of it.
How am I supposed to remember that? And then the other thing that I found that was really interesting was I was looking into the history of St. Louis and how it got its name. And there's a statue of, oh gosh, I can't remember, either King Louis or an old St. Louis. And the statue is called the Apotheosis of St. Louis.
Wow.
Which is, I looked into it, and that is also something that's like really rare. There's not a lot of apotheosis artwork in the United States. It's like a major thing. So I thought that obviously because of the apotheosis of Hercules in the book, that felt like, that's an interesting connection. There happens to be this apotheosis of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking into what other like major apotheosis artworks are there in the US. There's like a very short list. And one of the only other ones I found that was like significant was the apotheosis of Washington, which is, someone else we have another chapter about in the book. So I wanted to put all that together in a much more like formal and elegant PowerPoint or something, because I was like way more excited about the bridge connection than it probably comes across as I'm trying to just talk about it. But it's like, yeah, it's pretty rare, crosses the Mississippi, intertwining of paths, all of that stuff. So lots more St. Louis connections.
St. Louis Cardinals.
Ooh, nice one.
Thanks.
I do just want to get ahead of this and say that the St. Louis Arch is called the Gateway Arch. I know people are so bad right now, so the Gateway Arch. I'm sorry.
Cool. This is good connections. That's like 4 to 5 things that of the 50 that could be pointing towards St. Louis. I think there's more than that too. I'll have to go back and check my notes that I have in the document.
Yeah, because I was looking at that same like 1 mile radius at least 2 other times, and it wasn't because of any of those things I just mentioned. I can't even remember how I ended up there, but I've scoured that area many times now.
Right.
The only other thing I want to mention, because I was just rereading my notes real quick, my very rough draft notes, but the whole reason I started looking at this, and this is going to be very foo-foo imagery, but I was picturing like, because we talked about the United States being split east and west with the Mississippi going down the river, River going down the middle. And I was picturing like the bridges and interstate connections between the two as like almost like a stitching of the two sides together. Yes, that's the reaction I expected from
Cody, our seamstress.
Very foo-foo, but that's kind of, you could see how I'd get to that imagery.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, no, I think that's very cool. I'm glad we have a St. Louis person doing St.Louis research on the team.
I'm not the St. Louis person, because I don't even think it's right. It's just like this should almost be more just like 6 different coincidences of the day.
So I also do just kind of want to throw in a reminder that like if we keep getting these like strong cities or locations that are continue to feel like they're being confirmed, not all of these places have to be like the location of the lion's share, right? Like I do think there's a world where it's very valuable for us to like pinpoint locations that we're going to then connect. I actually think that's literally like what's going to be happening here. If I had to take a best guess at how we're going to find the lion's share location, that would probably be like a leading theory for me. So I think there's I think there's a lot of value in like, if we keep coming back to a certain place, a city, whatever, I don't think, if we have multiple of those, that's a bad thing.
Good point. Put a pin in that, literally.
Yes.
Cool. Great. Great horseshoes and hand grenades, Cody.
Oh, thank you.
All right, let's dive into the mailbag.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
All right, we have a mailbag that's under duress today from some guy, Sean. Usually we don't negotiate, but I don't want this to set a bad precedent for people, but we'll do a some guy, Sean mailbag today since he kind of scolded us for not doing his mailbag in the YouTube comments last week. And I think it's somewhat justified. I mean, we were on a very tight schedule last week, and when we see a wall of text, it's a little challenging. So apologies for that. All right, from some guy, Sean, and I'll post, he has a YouTube channel as well that has a handful of videos that I would recommend. So I'll post a link to those as well down below. Great podcast as always. I'm just a small-time YouTube guy who's slowly learning video editing and how to present my own videos. So I admire what you do. Well, there's your first mistake, is editing videos. We don't do that. So sorry in advance for the novel below. Cody, I'm excited to see your stamp of approval on a lion's share clue interpretation. I'm hoping to convert you to my own interpretation of page 90, though. So very timely. Hear me out. In a chapter that introduces itself by the guy behind Occam's razor, William of Occam, it would make sense to find a page 90 solution that involves the fewest assumptions. Don't multiply entities beyond necessity. Well, if something is missing, you're usually inclined to go look for it. What if there is a literal page 90 you can find in the world? Page Idaho is exactly that. It's a page right off of the I-90 freeway. So kind of pointing back to what you just said, Cody, about a highway, something well-known that everybody could figure out. Then consider pronouncing 90 actually hints at Idaho. When you say 90, the ninth letter of the alphabet is the letter I. So page 90 can reasonably be page ID for Idaho from pronouncing it alone. There's a whole bunch of other hints at it as well. If you agree, it doesn't necessarily point at Idaho. Maybe it just points at the I-90, but here's my challenge. I challenge you to find anything that is straightforward and simple, is at a straightforward and simple as a solution. If you want to have something more complicated, I think the burden falls on the solver to find that articulatable. Reasons why they prefer a more complicated solution over another. All things being equal, ceteris paribus. That's Latin. Doesn't page 90 equal page ID make the most sense? Comments so far?
I like it as an idea. It's definitely one of those kind of things. I kind of use this thought experiment fairly frequently, where it's like, if the treasure hunt's solved and JCB releases the solve, and he's like, this is what I meant by that, page Idaho and 90 exactly as he just described, I'd be satisfied with that. I'd be like, all right, that's a good, I'm on board with that. Um, and kind of because of that, I like it as a potential answer. And it's definitely something I would keep in mind. I would argue like this whole premise of it's Occam's razor, let's think of the simplest solution. Maybe because I talk about a lot of other threads I'm pulling related to the coordinate of, was it longitude 90? It kind of makes it sound more less straightforward than it is. But I would definitely argue, like from Occam's razor standpoint, that like missing page 90, minus 90 in the book, jumping to minus 90, a longitude that crosses the center of the geographic United States. I would argue that that is more straightforward than the page Idaho. And if you pronounce 90 like 9 and 9 being a letter of the alphabet, that feels a lot less Occam's razory to me. So those are kind of my two takeaways. I really like it as an idea. I'm definitely going to keep it in mind. I don't really think it matches with the premise of let's go with the simplest solution.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that the minus 90, I'm surprised it doesn't have more, at least vocal support in things I'm reading. That I agree that the minus 90, no page 90 feels like a minus 90 latitude, longitude, sorry. One of those things seems more Occam's razor-ish to me, actually, as well. All right. Bryn.
I would agree, and maybe it's just my confirmation bias, but I also agree that the longitude seems like the most straightforward thing. And I think once I kind of go through my Discord detectives, maybe that will sway as well. That being said, I really think it's clever. I genuinely really like the idea of well, let's find page 90 then.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think that is so cool. And I love that someone has thought about this in a unique way. So honestly, I really love it. I guess I'm just personally not implementing that into myself because I love what I've done.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing about it being unique, and it's refreshing to see still unique takes after how long the book's been out.
Yes.
And I'm definitely going to add it to my list of what I would consider valid or realistic interpretations of that missing page 90.
You mentioned the sum of our more treasure section, and the first item mentioned the 116.7 carat pear cut tanzanite. He mentions that this is a new birthstone for December. Recalled earlier in the book that JCB told us it's important to remember birthdays, just as you brought it up in the episode. Well, it turns out that he only mentions a single fully written out December date in the entire book. The date is December 28th, 1920. We look up famous people born on that date, we come across Steve Van Buren. Why does this matter? Well, at exactly the longitude of 116.7 in this exact Idaho County region, I think the lion's share is located. We find Van Buren Creek. It gets even better, though. He mentions 2002. Well, Road 2002 is right here. He mentions it is royal blue, quote unquote. The tanzanite. Royal Creek is right here as well, next to it at the same longitude. Oh, and Steve Van Buren entered the Hall of Fame with Guy Chamberlain. Chamberlain Gulch is there too. Touche.
That's good. That's very clever.
All right, now I get my shame bell out. Shame. He said, nope, this is Game of Thrones meme, shame. No pressure to respond on that. I know you are busy people. I would love to see it discussed. Feel free to ignore me if you think I'm totally off base. I don't think you're off base. But then the week after, and this is where I say I'm getting pressure and we won't respond to this every time. I was really hoping to make it into your mailbag last week. You only had about 10 comments, and I put a lot of thought into my comment. I messaged about the likely solution to the missing page 90. Oh, well, I guess a cracker you found looking like the face of on page 89 and a t-shirt purchase must be better than that. How dare you? How dare
The
you?
cracker was really funny.
The cracker was excellent. And I think the audience agrees with that. Don't shame the goldfish Charizard Charmander cracker, please, ever again.
I still can't believe that like multiple people made that same connection. The face of the cracker to that.
All right, shaming is over. Thank you, some guy Sean. We will post your link below. And I do recommend checking out. He has some nice videos on this. So, all joking aside. All right. Discord detectives time. Bryn, you have the first Discord detectives.
I'm flustered. Let me get my notes.
Okay. I can go
I've
first.
tried to consolidate. No. I think I'm ready. Okay. So I very quickly jumped into the channel Treasure Hunt Travelers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so sorry. I don't remember their names. Do you remember?
Right.
I won't put us all on this one.
Randy.
Is his wife?
They said it. They said it once in like their 4th episode after I struggled through trying to describe who they were because they never introduced themselves until that episode. So apologies to Treasure Hunt Travelers. We will get it right the next time. Apologies.
Anyways, I think they're fabulous, and I particularly I think they're married. I think they both seem very smart. I think she is fabulous. I'm obsessed with her. I think she has such wonderful ideas, and so I had just a few minutes of time. So I found a video, one of the recent videos. I think it was just over a week ago, that I wanted to get into, and something that caught my eye in their timestamps was this idea of talking about the theme of middle, half, 50-50 in part 1 of the book. So this really caught my eye because we've been talking about this idea of minus 90 being this cultural divide of the Eastern and Western United States, and geographical divide, that the Mississippi River just so happens to average the longitude of minus 90. So we've liked this idea of missing page 90 hinting at this differentiation of the left and right of the United States, primarily because of the cherry tree image drawn on the notebook that, the cherry tree itself kind of looks like the Mississippi River if you were to line it up. And then the book clearly then makes it a divide between East and West, if you will. And then the cherry on the side also very much looks to have an L and an R on it, which we're arguing to be left and right. So we liked this idea of, reflection, minus 90 as a middle. So I wanted to jump into their discussion, and it was really exciting because she was talking about all the instances in part 1 of middle, half, or 50-50. And she counted out that there was 21 references just in part 1. So for references to middle, she said there was 10, 15 references to half, and 2 references to 50-50. And so she went through and kind of listed, she doesn't go through all of them, but she had a bucket of clues that she was thinking okay, these, if you just read them, don't seem necessarily forced or out of context. Because she's looking for this theme now, she was able to pick up on them as maybe interesting. And then she had some other ones that were this seems so out of place that he's trying to interject these words or these concepts. So I'm going to go ahead and read just a few of them so we're all kind of on the same page here. I would highly recommend going to watch the video as well. So she said, my 3.5-year-old son opened up my book somewhere near the middle. I was relieved when all three sat down together in the middle of the front row. Over the course of half a year, half hook shot, completely fresh pack with 50-50 alignment. The middle school gym for junior high basketball tryouts. No reason to get too high or too low. Came from the highlands and the lowlands. And then I think maybe I added this one, the entire middle grade student body, because I know we had that discussion a while back. I was like, who's calling this middle grade? So we have this idea. I'm very much bought into this. I liked it a lot. Especially if you think through, I'm very much at the camp of, okay, we have part 1 is 180 pages. I really think that his intention was for missing page 90 to be like the middle of part 1. Okay, so then if we think through, minus 90 would be a longitude in degrees, because longitude and latitude, the unit is degrees. And then we also have the idea, or the other use of degrees in the book would be the trees bent at 45 degrees. So if you think through 45 degrees as a latitude, it's very interesting that 45 degrees is the center of the United States, if you're including Alaska and Hawaii, which I think is totally fair here. Like, that makes sense. That is the United States. So the center point of the United States as a latitude is 45 degrees. Isn't it odd that half of 180 is 90, half of 90 is 45, 90 is dividing the US east and west, 45 is dividing the United States north and south? Please. Is that not crazy? Half, 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 half and half within the United States. And we had already picked up on, what do we do with this 45 degrees? We already like the idea of minus 90 being the differentiation between east and west.
Right. It's
crazy.
Is the triangular numbers pointing at that 180, 90, 45 as well?
So yeah, I also love that. Maybe there's something we're supposed to, because these are such key angles. If we have we already have this bucket of triangular numbers that we like, and these are like, it's just all insane. So I looked up on a map, and again, I'm not saying like this is where the lion's share is, but I think there could be value of like pinpointing specific locations. I looked up what is at the intersection of the United States if we do minus 90 and 45 degrees. Did you see this text, Blake? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I was poking around the map.
Okay. So it just feels wild that this intersection of the United States, the middle, if we're considering minus 90 in the context of this book, minus 90 to be, the latitude in that sense, sorry, the longitude of the middle. This lands us in Athens, Wisconsin, which is insane when we think about the Olympic connections and we have, these ancient Greek connections. But to land in Athens is pretty crazy. Of like anything in the US we could land on. And when we've got all these Olympic connections in the book, we have the Olympic rings. I mean, I thought that was absolutely wild. But I don't want to like dilute this at all. I think it is incredibly interesting that we have half of 180 is 90, half of 90 is 45. Both of these can be very much, 45 is literally given to us as degrees. I think minus 90 is not hard to then transition into that being degrees as well for longitude. So I think the fact that those two are literally dividing in half when we have all these themes of half, middle, 50-50 in the book, I can't get over it.
You don't have to be a genius to solve the puzzle.
Right. See, that it's not hard at all. You just like, and I think that will be the solve when we come down to it. Like, I think in hindsight, it's going to be like, that was so simple, but it's hard. It's hard to come to the simple conclusions, right? Like when you don't know them.
Right. Good preview of Puzzle Corner.
But anyways, what do you guys think about this? Like, there's no way that's coincidence, especially even with the triangular numbers. Like, oh my gosh, was I in a tizzy this weekend?
So, I mean, you could be very passionate about your idea here, but it boils down to what can you find on the map? And this one has a pretty good solution, right? Athens. Nice fit. We have a whole chapter about Greek mythology as well, right? Beyond the Olympic connections. Those would be nice little hints towards items in the treasure that he bought, are hints towards Greece / Athens / Olympics. It kind of fits that narrative. But where do you go from Athens? Is there anything interesting on the map? How deeply did you dive?
I haven't gotten into it too much.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting just from, I guess, from a conceptual standpoint. Like if he is trying to, create this hunt in a way that is accessible to everyone from a geographical standpoint, he wants a box to be close to everyone. It just, in my mind, it kind of makes sense that the lion's share would be more central to the US. So that fits. I do like that it's up near Lake Superior. Because I've always been a fan of like the Uperlite rocks with the UV glowing connection, just like as a very back of mind type of thing. So anyways, I haven't done a lot of research beyond this. I guess I want to be thinking through maybe some like, I'm not a numbers person, but thinking through some more like simple ways that maybe we can then be using like how would we implement triangles now? Like what would be like we triangulate a location? I also found in the book that in the basketball chapter, he says something about 2/3 of the game was done or something like that. At the bottom of page 119, 2/3 of the way through part 1 would be page 120. If it then think through like, page 90 is missing. So I think there's a lot of references to like kind of these parts of a whole. And I think there's going to be something really, really coming together there, especially when he talks about, the treasure hunt coming full circle. And I don't think any of these concepts are going to be difficult. I just think that we have to kind of pinpoint how it all comes together. So I've just been so excited because I feel like this idea of half, middle, 50-50 just so perfectly aligns with the 180, 90, 45. And I know some people are also going to still be yelling because 90 is not, the middle of part 1. But I very much, I think I'm in the camp of that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Cody, we need commentary.
Yeah. I probably look like I'm not as interested as I am because I've already heard this 3 or 4 times. But yeah,
Excuse me.
No, I want to give some background on why I'm kind of just got a stoic face right now through all of this. I'm not like, oh boy. But at one point in time I was, oh boy, and my insides still feel like that. So
Bee landing on a pistol, a buzz in your belly.
Buzz in my belly. No, I like it a lot. I mean, it's clear and concise and crisp and feels the kind of thing that feels a little obvious once you hear it and maybe like is not as exciting as some like more complex solves because of its lack of complexity, but I think that that's actually like a good thing. Yeah, I'm excited to look into it more myself and to hear more of what Brendan finds.
This is for you, Blake. The state insect of Wisconsin is a bee.
Okay, very nice.
On a pistol.
And of course, if we think of like the Wisconsin badgers, I can't remember like the what it's called, but like the Wisconsin is the Badger state,
Mhm.
and that's originally. So I thought, oh, I liked that from Pokemon box. So
I
here's my
see.
confirmation bias bringing
I
it back.
see.
But going back to what K-Pro and Calazars were saying about there being like potentially mining connections to all of the boxes,
Mhm.
and of course we have this huge like pick and shovel on the front of the book throughout the book. Wisconsin became, the Badger state because of its mining connections, where like people were going into the hillsides mining, like a badger would.
Hmm.
So there's little nuggets here and there. I guess I've the research that I've done beyond has definitely been confirmation biasy.
Got
But I thought you
milk.
liked the bee connection.
Wisconsin cheese. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it piqued my interest as well. I got in Google Maps a little bit. I haven't gone onto Onyx backcountry yet to see kind of what public lands are around Athens, Wisconsin. And, well noted that if we find these locations, maybe it's not the exact location, but eventually if we find 4 locations, you can make a nice X out of it. If we're making a roadmap, it could be a point of interest. Like, yeah. I haven't done enough research to make too many comments beyond it's a fascinating connection. Very good. I like it a lot.
So anyways, thank you to Treasure Hunt Travels for kind of, I would say, expanding. And I don't think they were directly working off of what we were talking about with this idea of reflection, but in my mind, expanding this idea of reflection over 90 into this greater idea of like half, middle, 50-50. That was enlightening for me.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy how Brent had come up with this whole concept before looking up what town was there. And when it happened to be Athens, that's what really got me like, oh, okay, that feels like very coincidental or not a coincidence. And I would also mention, I know I kind of made that comment very early on about not diluting it. And then you also made that comment. So I don't know did you say anything about it being in Marathon County, or did you want to say anything about that? Because I imagine we'll get comments on it.
Yeah, so Athens is in Marathon County, which
lots of other reasons. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, of course, we don't have any like direct marathon stories in the book. So I don't know. I'm less enthused about that, but it does seem like it's interesting with, again, the origins of the marathon and when we think about themes that we see in the book as well.
Very good. Fascinating. Happy to hear people's comments on this. All right. I have one more Discord Detectives featuring Habeas Treasurus, which I think you will like as well. One of them is like a duh, which always makes me feel bad, but also feels good because it feels like a good connection. And then some additional content on top of that, which is interesting. Let me pull up my slides here. All right, we'll start with the duh. All right, so Habeas Treasurus just put a video out on Sunday called The Pokemon Box, Why JCB May Have Taped a Lily Pad to His Backpack. So pay attention, Bryn. You'll like this, I think. I think we've mentioned fleur-de-lis before. Do you know what the meaning of fleur-de-lis is?
I don't anymore.
Flower,
I did at one point.
Flower of the lily.
Okay.
So that's kind of the duh. I didn't know that. I probably should have. But it's literally lily flower. And so fleur-de-lis is obviously a big symbol of New Orleans, right? Because of the saints and all the French history there. That it seems like that is a really strong connection to the lily pad. What do you guys think?
I love it.
Yeah.
That's the duh moment. Beyond that, Habeas Treasurus always makes really interesting connections, I would say. Some of them I think are a little beyond, but some of them I really like. And this video I really like, highly recommend, link below to watch the whole thing. I'm just going to do a little recap of some of this stuff, but there's a lot more content within the video that I don't have time to discuss today. Anyway, his connection is a French place, which I've always liked. I've looked into the different Parises throughout the Southeast United States. But then he kind of makes the connection of why does he tape the lily pad? And the connection he makes is maybe it has something to do with Scotch or Scottish because of the different types of tapes he could think of. These are the list of 3: duct tape, masking tape, Scotch tape. But then he went down a rabbit hole of looking for cities that have a Scottish and a French connection. And he came up with a city called Afton, Oklahoma. And I'll show you the map on the next slide here. But this was quite interesting because aft could mean like back, like the back of a ship, the aft. And so aft on. So he taped a lily pad on his backpack. Aft on. Now, what makes this even more interesting is Afton is right along historic Route 66. So I have a map of it here from Los Angeles to Chicago. You can see that Route 66 goes directly through the northeast corner of Oklahoma. Here's the county that it's in. And here you can see there is a map of Route 66 through Oklahoma, and it goes directly through Afton. So how do you like that?
I'm obsessed. And as a reminder, like I have this fascination with Route 66 because it's a road trip chapter. What's more famous of a road trip than Route 66? And then 5.5 years old is 66 months.
Right. So anyway, there's more content in this Habeas Treasures video. Highly recommend. He makes a connection to the Coltrane Circle because there's a very famous, well, I don't know if it's famous, but a very visually stimulating gas station there or antique store that has a bunch of Texaco gas pumps, and Texaco, the logo of Texaco kind of looks like, well, it really looks like the Coltrane Circle, actually. So that's another connection here, but I will let you get the full content in Habeas's video.
I also want to add that, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I have a whole bucket of clues pertaining to ships. The most prominent one would be like bow. Taking the bow of a ship, which also then is very nice with aft.
He has a whole sewing connection as well with a ribbon highway. So I'm just teasing you now, but check out this video. It's awesome.
Forget 45 degrees and 90 degrees. I'm back, baby.
All right, Cody, any thoughts, or should we move on to Puzzle Corner?
I like it a lot. I like it a lot, and I'm also ready for Puzzle Corner.
All right, let's do Puzzle Corner. Puzzle Corner. I'm not quite sure. This is not out of Puzzlecraft. First Puzzle Corner outside of Puzzlecraft.
Is that allowed?
It's allowed. It wasn't allowed before because Dr. R Squared sent us the first sound effect that had Puzzlecraft, but then we requested it to be Puzzle Corner. All right. So this Puzzle Corner is called the Wasson Selection Task. And I came across this video randomly. It kind of gives off Bull and Thread vibes, I would say. The channel is called The Rest is Science, and highly recommend you check out this video. So we are going to do the Wasson Selection Task right now live. Good luck.
Are you going to do it too? Or
No,
do you already know?
I already know the answer. All right.
Okay.
I hate being put on the spot like this.
Fun.
Me too. I love logic puzzles. I hate being put on the spot for logic puzzles.
This is for everybody in the audience. The rule. You're shown 4 cards lying on a table. Each card has a letter on one side and a number on the other. And you will see a visualization of this shortly. So don't worry about memorizing this. The part you have to memorize is this. The rule. If a card has a vowel on one side then it has an even number on the other side. That's the rule. So your task is, which card or cards must you turn over to determine if the rule is being followed? All right, here is your task. So for those just listening, there are 4 cards on the table. There's an E, there's a K, there's a 4, there's a 7. Which cards do you need to flip in order to meet the rule? If a card has a vowel on one side, then it has an even number on the other side. Begin.
I have my answer.
Yeah.
I have my answer.
Four?
Okay, so hold your answer, Cody.
Oh.
Or Bryn, are you ready too? I can give people
Yeah.
time. You're both ready. Okay, Bryn, what's your answer?
E and 4.
E and 4. Cody, what's your answer?
I hope I'm not gonna look like an idiot here, but I'm gonna say you have to flip all of them.
Okay, so you are both incorrect. And
ooh, let me think for a second,
Okay.
because I thought that was going to be the answer. So
Just E.
okay,
Just E.
hold on. So the rule is,
Yep.
rule is if there's a, how is it not all 4?
Okay.
If a card has a vowel on one side, it has an even number. Oh shoot. Okay, one sec. If it has a vowel on one side, then it has an even number on the other.
Correct.
There's a vowel on one side. So yeah, so it'd be, there's a vowel on one side that has an even number on the other. So 4, just 4.
Also incorrect. So
Oh my gosh. If there's a vowel on one side.
So don't feel bad.
Just E. Just E.
Also incorrect. So don't feel bad. This is a very famous puzzle in psychology because it's somewhere between 4. The numbers vary, but somewhere around 4% of people get it correct.
I want to think about it more now.
Up to 10% in some studies. But this test has been going on for over 50 years, and the results are typically very consistent in terms of the number of people that get this right.
On one side. If it has a vowel on one side,
Yep.
then it has an even number on the other.
Correct.
If it has a vowel on one side, then it has an even number on the other.
So what cards do you need to flip in order to determine the rule is being followed?
I'm ready for the answer.
So now I can't figure out why it's not just vowel on one side.
Right. So here's the answer.
Now I can't figure out why it's not just E.
Okay.
7.
So you have to flip the E and you have to flip the 7. Because the E, if the E has an odd number on the back, the rule is broken, right? You need to flip the E to know if that rule is the same. You also need to flip the 7 because if there's a vowel on the back of that card, the rule is also broken.
Okay.
The K and
let's
the 4.
just roll. Let's just roll the intro. We're just gonna re-record the whole episode. I don't want any of this in there.
But how come you wouldn't have to? Oh, because the rule isn't like the inverse. It just has to be the. Okay.
So this 4, there could be any letter on it, and it wouldn't break the rule, right?
Okay.
And the K doesn't apply at all. So the interesting thing about this psychological experiment is if you give you guys additional context, even though the rule is exactly the same, if we give you additional context, it's like super easy to solve. So here's the super easy version, okay? Rule: if you are drinking a beer, you must be 21 or older. Which cards do you need to flip to know if this is happening? And the cards are beer, soda, 25 years, or 16 years.
$16.
And
beer. Right.
Well, but the other one wasn't. The inverse didn't matter. Oh, okay. But if you're drinking beer, you must be 21. So is it just beer?
It's beer and 16 because
and 16.
If the beer matters, so we need to see what age the person is that's drinking it. And because this person is under 21, we need to see if they're drinking beer or soda. So it's much easier to solve. About 75% of people get it right when the additional context is given.
I don't like the footnote of nearly everyone gets this right immediately.
Yeah, but you guys are trying to do it too fast. You have to think about it. Okay. So
Yeah, you didn't give me enough time to think. If I had some pen and
well,
paper.
I was planning on giving you time
yeah.
to I was planning on giving you time to think, and you were just hot to trot with your answer, thinking you got it. So that was your fault. Okay.
I was. I immediately just like read it as the opposite must be true as well. And that's
Right.
why I said all four right away, because I just like I filled in a blank that did not need to be filled in.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so
if you guys
Hot
can
to
just
trot.
be quiet for 1 second so I can record this sound bit. I think it's just E and 7. Okay, I'm gonna splice that in later.
No editing.
So why is this logic problem so difficult? Because of confirmation bias. What most people choose is E and 4, which I think that's what you chose, Bryn, the first time around. People choose cards that look like they confirm the rule. The E is a vowel, check, and 4 is even, check, rather than the cards that could disprove it. This is confirmation bias. We prefer evidence that supports our beliefs. What the logic actually requires is E and 7. You must look for cases where the rule could be violated, not confirmed. The card 7 matters if it is a vowel on the back. The rule is broken. The 4 card doesn't. Even if it has a consonant, the rule says nothing about consonants and even numbers. So, confirmation bias lesson for everybody.
That's good.
The reason it's hard is because of modus tollens. I believe that's Latin as well. The task demands a logical form humans rarely use intuitively. So if P, then Q. P is true, therefore Q is true. E is a vowel, so its reverse must be even. Check E, it feels natural. And the modus tollens is hard. If P, then Q. Q is false, therefore P is false. 7 is odd, so its reverse must not be a vowel. Check 7 feels counterintuitive to the rule. Our brains are wired to reason forward, if then. Reasoning backwards, not then, not if, requires deliberate effort. So that's just a shortcoming of the human brain, unfortunately. So don't feel bad. Like I said, and this slide is wrong. I just had AI make these slides, but the abstract version, this says about 25% get this correct, and the actual numbers are somewhere between 4 and 10% of people get the first logic question correct, the E7. So why we don't reason, we rationalize is the take home here. Confirmation bias pulls us towards evidence that confirms what we already believe. Modulus tollens, reasoning by contrapositive, is effortful and unnatural. Context is everything. The same logic is easy when framed as a social rule we care about enforcing. So the example of giving context, it's the same logic question, but we gave it context with like drinking age. It made it much easier for us to digest. So that's the end of my presentation. I think my commentary here is, it's a nice little lesson on confirmation bias, but really I think this is why the treasure hunt is so hard, because we don't have all the information. We don't have context that's clear, right? And so trying to think about the anti-examples or the negative examples is like just not natural for people. So I think this is a really good demonstration of the concept of confirmation bias and of why this treasure hunt is so hard, in my opinion. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
I really like your conclusion. And I continue to think about how I think this hunt is a lot harder than Jon, I won't say intended, but a lot harder than maybe he imagines it is. And I think what we just talked about, like in my Discord detective, is a prime example of that, because he's literally told us that page 90 Missy does a clue. That's like the one thing he's handed us on a platter. And I'm like now getting to a point where I like feel really excited about maybe like pulling that thread enough to identify like this is where we're supposed to go with that. And if that's, like the first thing I'm like super, super excited about, it's like probably one of the most obvious things in the book in theory. Yeah, like without the context, it's so hard, like I said, it's so hard to know what you don't know. But in hindsight, that's funny. What a perfect full circle moment in this episode.
I really like logic puzzles and I want to keep doing them where like we have to answer the question in the episode. And I'd like to keep doing it until I get one right.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this
I
is
don't
good,
like that.
good incentive for you guys to come up with a puzzle corner because then you can make me look silly.
Yes.
When you
good
did
point.
this, did you get it right?
Nope.
Oh, really? That makes me feel better
I
because
did
you're like
not.
some sort of genius and you had infinite time.
So when I first did it, I think I said I only had to turn over card E.
Mm.
Yep. So I got just like you guys did. So listeners, if anybody gets it right, write in and we'll commend you on the next episode.
Kudos.
Actually, somebody should just start a comment thread and then say, I got the question right. What is it called? I got the Wasson selection task right. And then everybody puts a thumbs up if you got it right. You have to be honest. And then we'll do our own little survey. And then look at the numbers.
Then someone else comment, I got it wrong.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everyone thumbs up that too.
This is a platform of honesty. There's treasure inside the Unofficial podcast. So somebody put both comments in there and then everybody thumbs up. You either got it right or you got it wrong. And now we've done our own psychology test and we can publish it. Very good.
If it isn't between 4 and 10%, then someone's lying.
Okay. That's what I got for Puzzle Corner. I've got a quick,
very good.
Yeah. Quick coincidence of the day. All right. My coincidence of the day. I was playing tennis this weekend and there was a cocoon on the fence. So we need to talk about butterflies and cocoons. And funnily enough, there was a butterfly that got really close to my face. I'm not typically that scared of butterflies, but Bryn is like extremely scared of butterflies. And so because of that, now I'm afraid of them too.
Yes.
What?
So
is it contagious? Is fear of butterflies contagious?
Yeah, because you see like when a butterfly gets close to Bryn, she'll just freak out. And so then that's a learned response that I have now too.
I think I might be immune to it because she does it in front of me all the time and I just laugh at it.
To be fair,
I'm not Mr. Tough Guy, but I don't flinch at butterflies. I will say that.
I really am fearful of things that can like attack me from above or below. So like,
what's your definition of attack? It's a butterfly.
Things that can come at me and potentially touch me. Touch is an attack.
So JCB's treasure hunt is a nightmare. You have the hand theme and the butterfly.
The butterflies are just so freaky because they're so unpredictable and you don't know. Also on theme with the book, you don't know if it gets close to you. A gust of wind could just bump it into you. And some of them have like these big chunky bodies. That creeps me out.
All right. This is actually just a phobia book because I'm kind of afraid of deer, right? So the antler theme is really shocking to me.
Oh my gosh.
What are you afraid of, Cody?
I'm afraid of a lot of things, but not snakes. Butterfly and deer.
Snakes. You're afraid of snakes.
Yeah, that had come up in an earlier episode because I was looking at a trail and the Google image or like Google Maps when you get like the images up top. One of them was like a big snake someone found. I was like, I don't care. If the treasure's there, I'm not going.
So that was the two snakes, the caduceus.
Yeah, the caduceus. I was not scared by the icon of the caduceus, but I guess if it was a real life thing, I would be scared of it.
Slithering right over to you.
All right, let's dive into the introduction of There's Treasure Inside. That's what we're reviewing today. Bryn, you had a visceral reaction to that?
It's just ripe.
All 50
I
clues
just
are
like
just in the introduction.
it feels like he's hinting at all 50 clues within the introduction for sure. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed because I didn't have a chance to really like uh categorize all my findings, I guess. So I feel like I have a lot. I'm not going to be able to read them all.
Okay, well, let's dive in. Bryn, why don't you just kick us off if you don't mind?
I'm going to start with that. The introduction starts on page 9. And I just feel like the number 9 has been significant throughout the book. So anyways, I don't want to ramble about something that I don't really have any much to back up with, but I just think with how important page numbers seem to be, I want to flag it. I'm putting a pin in it again.
All right, number 9. Cody.
Ugh, sorry, mid yawn. Ugh. Not that the page number 9 wasn't entertaining, Bryn. My yawn was not because of that. There are some people for which the emotion of joy comes naturally, one they can call forth and wear as easily as a warm, cozy mitten on a cold winter's day. And I'll retell the anecdote that I think that Bryn had already done like a year ago. But when we first got the book and cracked it open, I think this is like the first hint Bryn ever said anything about. And she's like, mitten, it's got to be
Michigan.
I mean, every time I read that, I think of that moment that started off as like the first moment of the treasure hunt.
I mean, it is an interesting clue to put in there. It seems out of place that he would choose a mitten. Now, my thoughts are like, does that just relate to the weaving theme or knitting theme? Because that's a typical item you could knit very easily compared to a glove, which has 5 fingers. It's easier to knit a mitten. But it definitely is a very strong Michigan clue, unfortunately. Or fortunately.
You know, mitten also is a hand. You put it on your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Hand theme.
Warm up your hand. Okay. We can explain Michigan away. Solved. The very beginning of right under I've hidden a treasure somewhere in the United States that's worth $1 million. Let's start by getting a few fun facts out of the way. So immediately on the first page, we have this triple F, which I'm always kind of fascinated with. A brilliant business blueprint. 100 hamsters. A few fun facts. Herding 100
hamsters. Ancient Asian art.
Anyway, so it's just another example of these weird alliterations, triple alliterations specifically, that I wanted to point out.
Nice. I have such a hard time when you say them. I'm like, how did I not pick up on these alliterations as I was reading? I just always seem to skip over them. Love that, especially like hot out of the gate with it. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of tees it up nicely as a thread throughout the book.
Perfect.
I liked the line, not a statement born from hubris, because we have born. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we kind of have this ongoing theme throughout the book of like reproduction and generations and, you know, the birth of different things. And so I liked that. And I also like that hubris has Greek origins.
Okay. Very nice. Yeah, I just looking into the etymology of hubris. I didn't really find anything too interesting, but I thought it was a fun word to put in there, but I don't know. No conclusion. Cody.
Oh, can I just add one quick thing since I just said born?
Sure.
This line goes with it as well. It's possible my brain just could not conceive of what this book would become at that moment. The seed of inspiration entered it 5 years ago. So
yes.
I guess seed was my connection there.
Oh, really? Not brain?
Well, brain, I wanted to go back and find what was the other quote that we had in the book about the brain, not like the synapse or something, and the
Mm-hmm.
nervous system. Like we had this kind of nervous system thing happening.
That was when he was
But-
thinking about garnets, smoky quartz. And there's more brain connections too throughout the book. I also didn't collect them, but I noted the brain theme in my notes for this chapter.
Love it.
It's possible my brain could not conceive of what this book would become in that moment, the seed of inspiration. And then I think there's another brain somewhere too. Now I've lost it. I apologize. Brain. Okay, Cody.
One that we've talked about a handful of times before, and then I have another additional comment with it. I've come to realize that the most accurate answer is simply my most honest one. Like a proverbial moth to a fiery flame, I am drawn to joy. So we've talked about the fiery flame being interesting.
Yep.
I also found it interesting that that's like separated by one sentence from the cozy mitten line. And just like this, playing with these ideas of hot and cold to go from like the proverbial moth to the fiery flame. And then later say, like 2 sentences later say, as easy as a warm, cozy mitten on a cold winter's day. So you can either read that as like hot and cold, kind of back to back, or you can read it as the warm mitten, and it's just like double hot.
Yeah, I did not make the warm cold connection. Interesting. Okay. Bryn, you have a comment?
Oh, I was just gonna say later we had the connection to the molten sun as well.
Yes, very good.
Is molt a word that applies to butterflies as well, not just like a hermit crab?
I think so. Good question. Molt. Cody will look it up. I found my other brain connections. I'll do that as mine.
Nice.
More than if you think I've lost my mind. Maybe I have, but I don't think so. Still, others surmise if they can figure out how my brain works, it might help them figure out where I hid the 5 treasure boxes. So, more than if you think I've lost my mind, brain connection. Still, others surmise if they can figure out my brain, how my brain works, another brain connection. So 3, I would argue, brain connections in the introduction here.
Love it.
Bryn.
Let me see where to go. Okay, let's talk about his use of pen. I think I missed one. I think there might have been 3. As I pen this introduction, and he says it would be impossible to pen this manuscript without first mining the origins of each item in our trove. So, of course, the mining thing is interesting as we go back to the pick and shovel. But what I want to focus on here is the pen. I mean, I want to think there's one more as well, but I just liked the use of pen really makes me feel like there's something that we are supposed to like be connecting dots or like be doing something. 'Cause when he talks about, when we said earlier, like he's created an analog hunt and a digital world, like I think there are just going to be aspects of like physically doing something. And I think maybe pen is kind of hinting at that, right? Even when we get into the beginning of chapter 1, he talks about his son with the highlighter. Like that's a pen. Don't we have Picasso with the marker later on?
Yes, for the pencil, the peas.
The peas. I just feel like it's maybe hinting at a tangible something that we're supposed to do here. It also makes me think of like the Art Smith image, with like these lines physically connecting. I won't ramble.
I think my first thought with the pen quotes there was the handwriting of every chapter subtitle, actually.
That's good.
Was another idea But again, what to do with that, I'm not sure. But that's what triggered in my mind when I saw those pen references. Cody.
You got some interesting information popping up on the old molt front.
All right, let's hear it.
So
Live.
yes, butterflies molt,
Okay.
and they molt more than once. And that's how I came across this very interesting fact that's specific to the monarch caterpillars in this case. They always molt exactly 5 times, which seems wild to me. I would expect it to be like
Really?
variable, right? Like it'd be like, oh, some molt 4 and then become butterflies, some molt 6. It's like, according to what I'm seeing here, they just molt 5 times. That seems interesting. Because we got a lot of butterfly connections, mold connections, metamorphosis, and that is like the act of the metamorphosis would be over exactly 5 stages.
The 5. Obviously, we had a lot of 5 connections. The end of the book and the number 5 pops up a fair number of times in the introduction as well. That's a very fun fact, Cody. Very
5
fun.
boxes, 4 little molts, and then 1 big molt at the end where a butterfly pops out.
The list became an organic creature, evolving, growing longer and larger day by day.
Solved.
A note, the molten tone of a tune.
Ooh, oh man. Oh, wow.
Podcast over. Logging off.
Solved.
Buy your tickets now. All right, cool. That's
but
great.
All jokes aside, I feel like those are some pretty good connections there.
They are.
Yeah, it's really good.
To look more into everything we just said.
Fascinating.
All right, I'll follow up that very fascinating and interesting moment with a not fascinating or interesting moment. This is the one I said the first time we read this first go around. This is one I had, and I wrote it down again. The use of the term secreted away, which he says twice instead of like I hid it. It stood out to me a lot the first time I read it, and I think because it was on the front of my mind, I've noticed that term multiple times over the last year, and it feels a lot less strange to me. So now I'm definitely not as like into the idea of that meaning something and not just being the words he chose, because it seems like it's a lot more common than I ever realized now that I'm aware of it, which is something that's actually happened on a couple of different words that seemed weird a year ago.
Okay.
He also said deciding on the secret spots. I'm not so quick to throw it away. I think it's pretty interesting.
The spots was interesting to me just because of the Casso image that we talked about, having that spot, literally that spot in it that seems like it was added in later.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do with that, but that was the connection I was thinking about with spots.
What about the big ink spot too on the basketball image?
Yeah. Good call. What do we do with these spots? I spread out their final resting spots in hopes that at least one of our boxes would lie in close proximity to you. Blake Grant. JCB does not care. Let me do my rant.
Sorry.
JCB does not care how many people are around the box. He laid out the boxes so that at least one of the boxes would lie in close proximity to you. I don't like people's arguments saying there's going to be more boxes towards the east because there's a bigger population center there. I don't think that matters based on this statement here. I spread out their final resting spots in hopes that at least one of our boxes would lie in close proximity to you. End of rant.
Not a per capita.
Correct.
Washington.
All right. Brandon, you had a comment. Sorry, I interrupted, but I was in the middle of a rant.
I know. I can't remember what I was going to say. It wasn't important. But I do think I think it's a valid point that you make. And every time I read it, I think I just should be searching for the one that's closest to us rather than focusing on Pokemon Box, which is like the only one I could probably be so sure. Well, an Appalachian Footpath, but yeah. I need to be focused on at least Lion Share gives me hope that it could be close.
All right, Bryn.
So I've kind of liked this idea of different physics things throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
And here, the first thing I identified was weight. And I've talked about mass throughout the book. He said, I feel the weight of wanting to get it correct.
Nice. Didn't he
But
also
the other
mention...
thing...
Yep.
Oh, God.
Well, didn't he also mention several pounds of gold? Is that what you're about to say? Sorry.
Yeah, so no, it's fine. He says many pounds of gold. You don't measure gold in pounds ever. It's in ounces and grams, right? So like to say pounds of gold, it just felt very weird.
Interesting.
Well, if he doesn't, that being said, if he doesn't have a clear number, which might be just like a whole separate conversation, but if he's trying to say he has a lot of gold, I do feel like he wouldn't say like, oh, I have many, many ounces of gold.
That's true.
I have many, many grams of gold. You kind of have to say something. I have many pounds of gold, like to make you picture a large quantity.
Okay, that's fair.
Why he wouldn't just say like I have over 1,000 grams of gold or something would probably make more sense than using pounds. But if he's just going to say many something, I understand why he wouldn't say many grams or many ounces.
Touche, but I still like the weight of wanting to get it correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like pounds too, because like I just said, if I was him, I would have said like over 500 grams or over 500 ounces. Gives something a bigger number, but use kind of like the standard unit versus this.
Yeah, it could have been dozens of ounces of gold. I think could be a fair assessment, but I think he uses dozen somewhere else as well. But I don't have that written down. I apologize. But noted. I like your weight connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our treasure. But what is more striking about our treasure is that it contains dozens of, dare I say, very remarkable items. Maybe he couldn't use dozens again. It'd be too weird.
Yeah.
All right, Cody.
Hopefully you guys didn't do this one while I was looking up moths, molting butterflies. One of the ones that stands out most to me in the whole book. The genesis of this project arrived in a flash and landed somewhat jarringly. An idea riding like a wild cowboy upon a lightning bolt of inspiration. This feels like the kind of thing where we'd have like maybe not a consensus, but like a leading theory on like what he meant by this by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I still haven't really. I remember early on there was some connection to what was it? One of the real life cowboys. Yeah, that one. Davy Crockett. Is that it?
That's Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. So, I mean, that's definitely the only solution I've heard that like makes any semblance of sense. I haven't really heard much else that I can think of over the last year that like explains that phrasing. But the Davy Crockett one, I've also not heard anything past that. Like, why would the Davy Crockett riding a lightning bolt mean anything? So,
right,
I'm unfulfilled with where we're at on the lightning bolt cowboy.
Let me see if I can add an ounce of more fulfillment.
Give me a pound of more fulfillment.
So this is actually kind of hard information to find, I would argue, but AI Claude was able to find it for me. This image is an illustration from Tall Tales of America. I think this is super interesting. By Erwin Shapiro, illustrated by Al Schmidt. Published by the Weekly Reader Children's Book Club, 1958. It comes from the chapter titled Davy Crockett, the Yaller Blossom o' the Forest. The scene depicted is the famous tall tale of Davy Crockett riding a lightning bolt all the way to New Orleans, one of the most beloved exaggerations from the Crockett Almanacs, a series of cheap pocket-sized booklets printed each year from 1835 to 1856, packed with wild, tall tales that turned the real frontiersman into a superhero of American folklore. I like the superhero theme. Cody, do you have your book handy? Because I actually forgot to go back and look to see how many times tall tale was in the book. I think it might be once. You just look for tall, maybe. Erwin Shapiro is a prolific author of Americana for children. His earlier works included Yankee Thunder, The Legendary Life of Davy Crockett. The 1958 Tall Tales of America collected 9 such stories, illustrated throughout by Al Schmidt, in that dramatic, richly colored mid-century painterly style you see here. So here's the cover of Tall Tales of America, or at least a cover, showing Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. But here's the 9 stories, and this way I think it's kind of interesting. Here's the 9 stories that are covered in these series of Tall Tales. So Cody, did you find if there was Tall Tale at all in there?
Yes, I found one. It's the George Washington autobiography, or not autobiography, George Washington biography.
Mm-hmm.
Mason Locke Weems, who wrote the first George Washington biography a year after Washington died, invented the story of the cherry tree in order to sell more books. In fact, Weems didn't even come up with this tall tale until his book's 5th edition of the printing. So that's definitely like a JCB inserted tall tale.
Yeah. And so I know we had talked, I mean, you kind of like the fairy tale theme, Cody, that you've come across a few times. So what if we merge these two ideas of the tall tale and we think about American tall tales? And the logic behind this is pretty loose, but if we look at these 9 tall tales of American history, I've only done research on a couple of these or knew about them. So for example, John Henry is one of these. And we do have a reference to the Transcontinental Railroad, where John Henry was really good at putting those railroad spikes in, right? And I could not figure out what my connection was to Johnny Appleseed, but I know it's in my notes somewhere and I couldn't find it. But I think there is like a loose Johnny Appleseed connection at some point, either with like the pot or pan used as a hat. And I don't know where I got that from, or from apples and seeds, which maybe is like connection from the apple chapter, and then seeds we just talked about and is other places in the book as well. Anyway, I need to collect my thoughts on this. The other one is this Joe Magarac, which I had never heard of before. It's kind of a Pittsburgh centric tall tale about this guy that could like bend steel with his hands and like carry molten steel. But we do have the Carnegie chapter, right? And that's, Carnegie did do a lot in the steel industry as a main way to make income and his investments. Sam Patch, I cannot figure out a connection to. He was one that like jumped off Niagara Falls and did something, but I don't feel like there's a Niagara Falls connection. Doing it live though, we do have the Envari's ring with the waterfall connection.
That's what I was just thinking, yeah.
What about the guy jumping out of the way of the buffalo?
Interesting. I don't really have a good Paul Bunyan connection at this point, and I haven't done research on these.
Dropping down the cherry
tree.
Okay, perfect. Let's just figure this out. Old Stormalong. I've never heard of that before, but that could be the shipwreck.
Probably ship stuff, yeah.
Anthony, I don't know what this is. Is this like Puxatawny Phil or something? I'm not sure. And then I don't know anything about Pecos Bill. So thinking a little bit broadly, if we're thinking about the fairy tales, we're thinking about the tall tales. And JCB gives us the hint about Davy Crockett riding on a lightning bolt. I think there could be something here. So more to come on this.
Yeah, I quite like this. I like that if the Davy Crockett, if the cowboy riding the lightning bolt quote was anywhere else in the book, I think I'd be less inclined to like this, but
Mhm.
because it's in the introduction, it almost like acts as like a gateway to this idea of like using these American stories, tall tales, like you said, like similar to like how he keeps mentioning fairy tales. And there's one other quote from the book that I
Mhm.
actually want to read out because it was something I was thinking of as you were kind of making that connection. And that's from uh what's this, the Hercules chapter, I believe. If you've been thoughtful, you may have considered that a chapter titled Make It Make
Mm.
Sense might also be a reference to figuring out the solution for the location of the treasure I have hidden. My hope is that this chapter can help you do just that, but you may have to look beyond just ancient myths and legends and consider more. So, is looking beyond ancient myths and legends and considering more, meaning you're looking at like these other tall tales.
You ever go wandering beneath the clear blue sky?
Yeah.
That's
So
a
anyway,
great point. I love that connection, actually, Cody. Very nice.
I like a lot about this. So this was because you said this was like a little pocket book for many years, but there's only 9 stories. Did they do?
Yeah, so it was published as The Tall Tales of America in 1958, but the story originally of Davy Crockett riding a lightning bolt came from the Crockett Almanacs, which were published, little books published in 1835 to 1856, full of Davy Crockett tall tales. And that's why he is
Okay,
an
so it's
American folklore. Yeah.
two different things.
Yes. The story of Davy Crockett riding a lightning bolt to New Orleans originated in the 1800s. This picture that we are all referencing came from 1958, 100 plus years later. But it doesn't discount that the story is a classic Davy Crockett story.
Yeah, yeah. No, the connection's still there for sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm really interested in this. This is a good episode. We're getting a lot of connections here that are really getting me excited.
Get up.
Right. That was my big one, Bryn.
That's good. I liked it. So since Cody brought up the line of Genesis that we were just talking about, I do think it's interesting that he uses the word Genesis. He also says as I stand on the eve of publishing this book. So because of the use of Genesis, I thought, is he inserting Eve as an Adam and Eve? And then he also says the nomadic journeys of the disciples of Jesus Christ evolved into the most popular religion in human history.
Good. I was wondering what to do with that Eve. I didn't
That's
even
all
write
I
it
can make of
down.
it because it's certainly forced.
Cool. That's connection to the forbidden fruit, the apple. First chapter's about apple.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I didn't even consider that.
Do we have any mention of garden or Eden in the book?
What about the garden of the roses, the talking roses?
Oh, very nice.
Right away in chapter one, Jobs was adamant that the case of the apple II have a rounded edge.
Adamant. Blake Rant.
Nice.
That's
good. I like that.
Too much good stuff.
All right.
What restaurant's that? Is that Arby's?
No, I don't think it's Arby's. I can't remember which one it is, but I don't think it's Arby's.
It's like 7-Eleven. It's like a convenience store, I think. AM PM.
Ooh, I think it is AM PM.
It is.
AM PM.
Okay. Whose turn is it? I'm not even sure. Did you just went
say it's you, Blake?
No, I think it's Cody's turn.
I'm doing something very important
Okay,
right now.
I can go then. No problem. I have a whole plethora of things. Let's look at the very first line of the book, of the introduction. My editor, oh, the classic editor, Dawn. My editor thinks this book is unlike any that you have ever read before. He's probably right. That's a little concerning to me. He's probably right. Because if we think about the cherry, and if you believe that that's an L and an R, now he's suddenly just stating he's probably right, which would indicate right of the Mississippi east, if we want to pull that thread. So that one was a little concerning.
Interesting.
That one was a little concerning to me.
Why is it? Wait, why is it concerning though?
Because we're thinking about
because we want it to be on the west.
We're thinking about west of the Mississippi, aren't we? Generally, but Wisconsin is going to be right. But the only reason I'm making that is because of the alleged L and R on the cherry. Left and right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that line alone, unless he's like coming out with a bang, could be like too big of a clue in just that one line to be like, okay, we've eliminated half of the US already. Unless it's one of those things you don't know until you know.
Right. He's probably right.
It is, I mean, the line really does bug me. And I do think, you know, if you're being clever writing this book, there could be something very satisfying about being like, I'm giving you a big hint right here in the very first sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. I had not thought about that at all.
Yeah. Something to think about. All right, Bryn.
Okay, let's talk about like sound and time. Again, my clue connections here are rough, but the line, one they can call forth and wear as easily as a warm, cozy mitten. So I liked that he said call forth. And then later he says, I could hear joy beckon to me from time to time, but was always distant and muffled. Unfortunately, as we so this is two different things. So that there was like the call forth, I guess maybe jumped out to me because of the Scotty reference, because wasn't the Scotty device some sort of like communication device?
Yeah, that was Steve Wozniak Blue Box. Yep.
The blue box, yeah. And then to then be later referencing joy as distant and muffled, like that also kind of seems like a long distance communication device.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was also the connection between using time to time. Again, I think there's maybe 3 instances. I only wrote down 2. I could hear joy beckon to me from time to time. Unfortunately, as we experienced from time to time, pursuits sometimes clash. So time, I mean, like we do have the Fabergé egg clock in there, which is there to illustrate, you know, a story, but is there something more we're supposed to be doing with time? Felt like there was an emphasis.
Yeah, I was thinking about clocks while reading that as well, and kind of had the same path that you took, thinking about the Fabergé egg, but then also maybe thinking about the Hopi calendar as a time to time as well, a little bit bigger scale. But maybe thinking about this as the connection of, maybe this is the connect the dots time to time, where we're thinking about different stories during different time periods to make those lines. I'm not sure. Time to time.
Let's also not forget that when we're thinking of latitude and longitude, we have degrees, we have minutes, we have seconds.
Good.
Which, of course, with like the soccer chapter,
good,
especially, we have such a emphasis on minutes and seconds of the game. In the basketball chapter, we have minutes and seconds in the basketball. Like there are definitely
minutes and seconds. Yeah.
Very precise instances of time in the book.
And we have the time at the shipwreck as well.
That's right.
11 a.m. or whatever it was. Okay. Good live thought exercise. Cody.
I have, as our blue and green planet revolves around its molten sun, life on Earth sketches out, flip the page, over 8 billion different lifelines, all searching, all drawing out one huge treasure map across its surface. Loaded quote right there. All sorts of stuff in there to pick from.
I think this is the most important. If I had to pick one quote from the introduction, it would be this.
Yeah. Blue and green planet. We've talked about all different color themes. Molten sun, back with like all the fiery stuff, not only in this chapter, but throughout the book. The connections, like human connections of 8 billion different people. The lifelines, the word lifelines being like either, I picture like the word lifelines being either connections between people or like literally drawing out like where someone physically went maybe during their lifetime, like in like notable places that they were. All drawing out one huge treasure map across its surface. Makes me think back to like roadmap and like large scale macroscopic maps. It's just, yeah, there's everything in that little excerpt there.
I'm gonna throw one more in there potentially. When you do palm reading and theme, are those lifelines or are they something else?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm in the middle of looking it up, but anyway.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, let me know what you find.
Okay.
I do want to add to that, Cody. He said the experience of hunting for what we want connects every last one of us. Our hunt illuminates the common fabric we share. And so, I mean, I think if we think through like his big message here is like we're all searching for like the same things in our life. We're all connected in these ways. He's trying to create this like unifying message, humanity. And so it makes sense to me that like his solve for this book is something that is also representative of that. And so I think that's why I like this idea of like literally like drawing these lines, penning these lines between these points to weave everyone together to give us the location of the solve. I mean, he's telling us we're drawing out one huge treasure map across the surface of the United States.
Yeah, I think a lot of the solves we've been most excited about recently have kind of fit that description, right? Being these big macroscopic geographic folds and connections and intertwines and stuff. What's the word on the lifelines, Blake?
I'm pulling up a picture so we can all look at it here. All right, here's what I found for palm reading, which I wouldn't necessarily be a fan of, but we know that JCB is a little bit whimsical. So the lifeline is the one that goes around your thumb, kind of this curved one, but there's also heart line, which we have a nice heart theme. A headline, I'm not sure that we could connect that with confirmation bias or not. Fate line, and then I've never heard of this one, a sun line.
Interesting. Anyway, okay, so lifeline is one of them.
Lifeline is one of them. Yeah.
It nice just so happens to be an arc. Oh, it's too good.
All right, Cody. I probably should be paying attention to the more legitimate clues on there, but I just had that thought take over my mind.
And theme.
I pressed my thumb on it as hard as I could.
Oh, right.
In the book.
That makes a little moon. The arc of human history. Did you guys just say that one? The arc of human history has been shaped by treasure hunts, both big and small.
I
Mm-mm.
didn't know.
Okay. Taken. But it fits in nicely. All right. Next, Bryn.
Let me see here. To add on to my physics, as I began putting my vision for this treasure hunt into motion,
Hmm.
the discovery of most every type and quality of object I desired was almost frictionless.
Oh, nice. Very excellent. Stamp of approval.
Or perchance there were larger forces at play.
Wow.
Those are all good.
Totally over my head on that one. Very
Am I
good.
just the science math person on this podcast?
Did you get the matter one? I believe if you are open to it, this book may help you become a wiser treasure hunter in the ways that matter to you. You're really
I
going
didn't.
deep physics. Matter would be important.
I like it. I'm adding it to my notes.
Cody.
The experience of hunting for what we want connects every last one of us. Our hunts illuminate the common fabric we share.
Nice. I saved that one for you. Yeah, illumination theme could fit in with the flame, fiery, maybe, but then certainly the common fabric we share is a great weaving connection, Cody. It were as if an invisible hand was guiding my task, orchestrating each step from afar. Note Joy's serenade. Our conductor, as with a trace of a baton through the air, gives direction. So that is seemingly the most, in my opinion, one-to-one connection to Joy's serenade in the book. That quote in the introduction.
Yeah, the introduction and Joy's serenade seem like they're very, very intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think maybe not quite yet, but I feel like as we maybe get a few more like theories that we feel really good about, I think it would be super valuable to do like a very one-to-one comparison of Joy's serenade to the introduction and see what connections we can continue to make.
Molten. Yep.
Yeah. Also with the hand theme, I was ill-equipped to hold on to its richness for very long.
Okay. Very nice.
I also just want to throw in a little PSA for all the illumination themes. Very much, I like the lighthouse still, which kind of fits in with the Great Lakes again. So
Nice.
just throwing it out there as an idea. Let's see. I think, was it back to me?
Yes.
My hunt for it has become native, which immediately made me think of the Hopi calendar and maybe all the Hopi culture that he is highlighting.
Cody.
I'm fresh out. I did.
Really?
I had that same Joyous Serenade connection, conductor, invisible hand, orchestra, and that was my last one.
Right.
So I'm going to end with a whimper, not a bang.
Yeah.
So many goodies. I guess some technical ones here. Each of these 4 chapters is dedicated to one box and contains the clues and information you will need to find it. So there's clues and there's information. And then later,
That's a good pickup.
Later in the chapter, instead, the clues and hints that will lead you to its hiding place may be found anywhere inside this book. So lots to take away from there. Use the term clues and information and clues and hints as kind of the terminology I think we should use moving forward. So we can either put it into clue, information, or hint. And then the other thing to note here that will lead you to its hiding place may be found anywhere inside this book. Not on the cover.
inside this book.
That's
Interesting.
definitely, I mean, that's a good point, but I think that would be too literal for the way that I've learned to read JCB.
Agreed. And there's the haiku inside the dust jacket, which is technically outside of the book, I would argue. So I was just putting it in there as a troll mostly, but I did want to highlight it.
I wrote down all this, and I think, the most interesting thing I think is that he's then differentiating in his mind clues and hints. Like he has created these two categories in his mind, which I think is a conversation that we've had quite a few times. So I was excited to reaffirm that.
All right, I'm going to do one more technical one just because I'm on a roll. Sorry. Acquiring each item in this treasure, investigating the histories. This is when he's talking about the joy. Creating the clues, deciding on the secret spots, hiding the treasure boxes, writing this book, designing the treasure boxes. That was a good reminder to me, actually, because I think there's debate on whether or not JCB helped design the boxes or not, or if Seth Gold just made them. But this states that he helped design the boxes, which is interesting to me because I was kind of in the camp of he just got the boxes from Seth with general concept he gave maybe, but not necessarily helping design them. What do you think?
Could he be describing things other than the actual box itself that Seth created? Could he be talking about designing how to protect everything, how to which treasures to lay out in the box versus maybe withhold for now, putting it in the theorized pelican case, all of that stuff.
That's a good point, Cody.
That kind of design, because it sounds like he put a lot of thought into that element of the design as well, and that could be what he's talking about.
Okay. Could be.
And I think, I can't remember, maybe it's a treasure hunt thing, but I feel like we've gotten very clear response from him in a Q&A where he very much outlined that process with Seth, which makes it sound different than him having too much of a strong hand in design. He just kind of gave him a concept, it sounded like. So I guess I would tend to run more with that than this line in the book.
Yeah, that was my feeling, but that's why what you stated was my feeling, and I don't remember the facts behind it. But this one made me rethink it. That's why I put it in here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bryn.
He uses the word trove twice. And trove has French origins. So we've been keeping an eye on all these French connections. So did not want to pass that up.
Trove comes from the...
Go ahead.
Trove comes from the Anglo-French phrase trésor trove, meaning found treasure. The English language adopted this into the legal phrase treasure trove. Over centuries, English speakers clipped the word into an independent noun that simply means a valuable collection or discovery. I had the same thinking, Bryn. All right.
I just think, kind of on the topic of getting really excited about some lion share things that feel real and tangible, this connection that we found with his use of words, French words that kind of mean in conclusion, the end.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that is very much a thing in my mind as well.
I think so, too.
I have this document I just started over the weekend that I've titled The Lion's Share Solve. It's the things that I feel very strong about at this point. And there's very few things. And one of them is this bucket of the French words that are indicating a conclusion.
Demonant, and voila. And then I can't remember the third one anytime.
I know. The fact that there's three is,
yes,
I think it's really good.
Yes. Very excited about that potential clue. You are free to search or not for any number these hidden treasure boxes as you wish and in any order that you choose. So you are free to search for any number of these hidden treasure boxes. So is that a hint towards numbers being important? In
Probably
any
a stretch.
in any order that you choose. Yeah, I think it's a stretch, but Spidey sense. Right, Bryn.
I only have a couple things left. Let me get back to my notes. Joy existed somewhere on the other side of a dense wall. I mean, that's the tangible thing. It also made me think of the Shavin de Huntar chapter. So, I mean, is this like boundary wall, like fortress, I guess is kind of what I have in mind. Is this like a fundamental aspect of what we need to be locating? And I should know the line, but like, is it something about looking behind a rock, looking under a rock?
I think it's
somewhere in the
behind a
book.
rock. Yeah. Yep.
It just gives me a very clear visual in some way of like what this treasure hunt or the treasure location might be, whether or not it's correct.
Right. However, upon much reflection, a nice reflection theme there.
Yes.
There were many oohs and ahs. I don't know what that means, but I thought I'd point it out as being interesting.
It feels like something.
And Vogue. There's a mention of Vogue magazine in the Jackie Onassis chapter. Again, I don't know about what the connection might be there, but wanted to point it out. And I think that's a French word as well. Right, I just did a rapid fire. You can do some, Bryn.
Those are my last ones.
Okay. So I enlisted the aid of 5 researchers, five boxes. The objects in our treasure became my co-authors. It is possible my brain could not conceive of what this book would become in that moment. The seed of inspiration entered it 5 years ago. We talked about that one already. And then, so 3-5 connections. And then archival references in hand theme. I think you might have mentioned that one already. And then finally, my last one, I promise. There was solace in there. Take solace. There's also solely as well. And there's 2 solves. So all of those begin with SOL, sun, soul, sun. I don't know. That one's
That's good.
Pretty
That's really
stretchy just because it's like 2 instances of interesting words. Solves I wouldn't necessarily keep interesting, but solace and solely, stretch. That's it. That was a flake. That was dust.
I think it's really good though, with like how many like fiery and molten and hot. I mean,
yeah,
even the 2 really strong actually.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's an episode.
Whew, there's a lot in that. I want to go back and just reread it a couple more times. It just feels it feels like it really is a strong introduction, but you almost have to do it retroactively.
Yeah, I mean, both times we've read through the book for the podcast, we've come back and read the introduction after, which I think is appropriate almost.
Agreed.
Right. I think that's a pod. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Searching for clues.